What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Rubber Soul. Today we're going to be talking about the freshman release from Mr. Brian Puspos, Slow Love and Bangin', aka SLAB. If you don't know who Brian Puspos is, he is pretty big name in the choreography world. He's worked with people like Justin Bieber. Most recently, he starred in a Gold Link music video and has made quite a name for himself all around the world, and has finally decided to take his talents into the vocal realm. He's done a little bit of work in the past with American Idol contestant Andrew Garcia, and we've seen a little bit of his vocal talents there. Nothing really too impressive, so I was excited to see what he was going to do with this EP. It's 5 songs, nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy, but it is very impressive nonetheless in its own right. So this is pretty much exactly what it is, and I believe exactly what Brian intended it to be. It is an R&B album. Brian was born in the 80s. He loves 90s R&B, as he has said before. He dances to it quite frequently, so I was very much expecting something just like this once he announced he was releasing an EP. And it's very true to the sound, very brilliant mix of old school with new school. I really appreciated that. I think he executed it quite well. Vocally, I was very impressed by what he's done. In the past, he's had a little bit of a shakiness, in my opinion, with his vocals. He's gone into falsetto a little bit off pitch, not really had a very strong melodic voice. He's very much changed that in this EP. He sounds confident. He has a much wider range. I was very impressed with what he did with it. Firstly, I was a little bit put off by it just because it is R&B. I don't normally listen to R&B, but I figured, let's give it a shot. It's Brian Puspos. Why not? So, let's go into it. Sonically, I was very impressed with this album. It's produced almost flawlessly. All of the beats are solid. It's really something that kind of carries this album, and I think he made very wise choices in who he had produce it. The album kicks off with the track Starting Line. This one is probably the most 90s influenced track on this EP. It is a track with rhythmic guitar, very slow melodic drums. He even, in the music video, is in very stereotypical all white, dancing in front of drapes and windows. And but I very much enjoyed this track. It really is where Brian delves into his falsetto most in the entire EP, and does so very well. Following that is Murder, She Wrote. That is the first single off this EP he released a few months ago, and it is also the only track on the EP that does talk about women in a negative light. It sort of talks about how Brian was betrayed by this woman, and who convinced him that she loved him, and then kind of kicked him to the curb. So again, we're going in with the very melodic guitar chords, very slow melodic drums, very kind of the more dark track on the EP. Everything else is a little more light and bubbly, or a little bit more seductive. This is a little bit more of a sadder cut off of the EP. Very much enjoyed it. Then we go into the more modern and unorthodox track on the EP, Be Ready. This one has by far my favorite breakdown on the song. There's an incredible breakdown on the bridge that just kind of gets you bobbing your head and moving. Also interesting about this particular track is it was co-written by Anderson .Paak, which I was extremely excited to hear, as I'm a huge fan of him and I really love what he's able to do lyrically on his own music, so I was excited to see what he was going to do co-writing this song for Brian. I was a tiny bit disappointed. I was expecting something a little bit better from Anderson, considering what he's been able to do with Malibu and all of his connections with No Worries. I was expecting a little bit more lyrically. Still a very good song, just not as good as I think it could have been, having the roster that it did behind it, but still very well produced, very well performed. Brian executes very well on this song. I appreciated it. Following this, we have the next track, You Know What You Did. This is by far my favorite vocally of the album. It's halfway through. This is kind of where Brian comes into his own with his voice. It doesn't seem like he's trying to stretch himself as much to prove himself. He seems very confident in what he's saying, very confident when he's singing. Everything sounds off very well. This is probably tied for my favorite song off the EP. I very much enjoyed it. Very reminiscent of old school Chris Brown, vocal styling wise. Great track overall. Next comes my least favorite track off of this EP, which is Rebound, which is very corny. Very corny, very, I feel, poorly written. The beat is meh. I mean, it's not terrible. The whole album as a whole, I feel like, was really good production-wise, as I said before, but this beat just didn't really grab me too much. I wasn't really impressed with this song. and it kind of left me a little bit with a bad taste in my mouth as far as he was going to finish off the EP, but he quickly turns that around with the last cut off the EP, which is Stressless, which is my favorite beat off of this EP. It comes in with some very unorthodox guitar chords along with drums, both kind of distortion put over the guitar and the drums. It almost sounds as if it's a voice singing with a guitar distortion amp over it. Love, love, love it. Love the way he sings. Again, this is another track where he seems very comfortable with what he's doing, finishing off the album with a bang. It can get a little bit, corny, just like everything else can. There is a line right before the chorus that says, the taste of your body is the only thing I want for breakfast. But still very good overall. Again, as I'm sure you probably gathered, the only problem that I have with this EP is a little bit of corniness lyric-wise, which is a little bit disappointing considering the roster of people that he did have writing for him on this EP. I was hoping for a little bit more. But you know what? Overall, very solid, very good album. You will like this album if you enjoyed old school R&B. I'm talking Chris Brown, Mario, Tyrese, Neo. You're going to love this album. If you like something that you can slow grind in the club to, you're going to love this album. If you just love some great R&B music, you're going to enjoy this album. Very, very impressed with how Brian Puspos was able to bring this together. Great breakout freshman piece for him. I'm excited to see what he's going to do in the future. He has hinted that he's already working on something else, so I'm hoping maybe even this year we'll see a full-length LP from him. Maybe something with a little bit more lockdown concept. Again, this is an EP, so it wasn't really a conceptual album, but I'm hoping for something a little bit more of a storyline, a little bit more structure to it going forward. Overall, this album gets a 7 out of 10 from me. So, tell me what you think. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did I miss anything? Did you really love it? Did you really hate it? Let me know what you did love and you did hate. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace.